You are back with the Energy Insiders team, Giles, Parkinson, and David Leitch with furry animals.
Oh.
I think this invitation to do video is for those listening on the audio. If you did want to go and listen to part of this is actually we're actually doing some of this on video. David, just struck by the Darren Miller interview. We are extraordinarily lucky. I mean, he's got $7 billion to spend. We're extraordinarily lucky to have an institution like ARENA, and we should be very thankful to the government and the independents and the Greens back in 2012, who fought to have this put into place, and who then defended it in Parliament over the following decade.
Absolutely. And, it's a contrast again with the United States, where I think NREL over there, the National Renewable Energy Lab, has been an absolutely wonderful institution that's done a lot of path-breaking research, not the kind of applied funding that ARENA is responsible for. And don't forget, it was ARENA that got utility solar going in Australia in the first instance.
That's true.
So it is good. It's interesting to hear it stepping up. And it was very interesting to hear the hints about what might be happening in iron ore and stuff like that. So certainly look forward to learning more as the year goes on.
Absolutely. And look, we caught up with Darren Miller this week because there was the announcement, the first sunshot allocation. And so we're starting to see the gears of government getting back into work. And we're starting to see a few projects also moving along, particularly with grid connections. And what I find really interesting is some of the solar hybrid projects being rolled out and approved. OX2 has a 1,000 megawatt hour solar hybrid project up in Queensland. There's another one in New South Wales. Both got grid approvals. So we're starting to see this roll out. David, there was also the Vic Grid declaration of renewable energy zones and transmission lines. And you've had a bit of a detailed look at this because you've been writing about this issue for quite a while. What did you find and what did you make of it?
Well, essentially, it's early days and it takes a while to work through it all. But as listeners are no doubt well aware, Victoria is still set on its course to have 10 gigawatts of offshore wind. And not that it says so in so many words, but one of the reasons I think is it's a little bit concerned about community feedback about the amount of land use that would be devoted to onshore wind if it had it. So, for instance, it makes a thing. What it's done is released a document that sets out its view of renewable energy zones in Victoria, which will have a total capacity of about 5 gigawatts of wind and about a gigawatt of solar. But that's not as good as that's not very much to start with, spread across like 6 zones. The Urana zone in New South Wales has that much all by itself. But in addition to that, I mean, the Golden Plains, what is it, 1.3, 1.4, 1.2, I can't remember.
1.33, I think.
Yeah, gigawatts of wind is included in that total, And basically hardly any new onshore transmission development in terms of new kilometres of wires constructed in the first phase, and a lot of the SAREZ developments coming post-2030 when your lawn is closing well before that. So, and the economics of it all are not explained in the document. Anyway, there'll be more. I'll try and set it out more carefully, but I don't. I would have preferred less focus. My instinct is that it would be better to have less focus on offshore and more focus on the NEM as opposed to Victoria alone. If Victoria is too worried about land use in Victoria, well then import the electricity from South Australia or from New South Wales, and the jobs will still go to Victorians, even if they don't live in Victoria at the time when it's been built.
I'm not too sure whether that's quite the plan. Anyway, okay, well, we'll have a look in further detail on that. Look, not much else happening this week, but
some AEMC has just released another thing I haven't had time to go through, a revision of the transmission connection rules. And as we know, transmission connection is another big bugbear in the planning and the length of time. And certainly these rules and the application of these rules and the modelling and the whole process needs to be smooth as. It doesn't matter quite so much right at the moment when projects are still essentially getting going. But as we ramp this up, like my cricket match analogy, we're at the early stages, but we're going to have a whole lot of projects connecting later on. And that essential part of the process needs to run very well. So it's great to see that AEMC has revised the rules, and they claim it's a big revision and will make things a lot easier and smoother.
Yes, well, I guess the proof will be in the pudding on that one. It's actually interesting too that they've actually sort of defined some rules about loads, particularly data centers. And I think in the US we've seen some issues where they've got some large data centers, and there's one issue a couple of weeks ago when a whole bunch of them, about 1.5 gigawatts of load, just suddenly switched off without any particular warning, which sort of had obvious implications for the grid. Because we are about to see some of those data centers being built in Australia, and they're going to have bigger loads than the aluminium smelters, which are the biggest consumers on our grid at the moment.
If you added up all the notional under construction capacity of data centers and what's existing, it does come to about the same amount if they were used at full capacity as the aluminium smelting sector. But my feeling is that they're not being used at full capacity, no matter what you might read in the paper, because you just don't see the evidence in the electricity consumption. It's not growing that much.
Well, not yet, no. But I mean, I think we're probably seeing sort of AI-driven data centers with bigger loads over time. But I guess we should wait and see. But look, it's also part of that sort of focus on sort of demand side flexibility and responsibilities, which I think is going to be a crucial part of a grid, a high renewable grid.
You wonder why the data center switched itself off. It must have got a very, maybe someone told it to, gave it, what do they call it, one of those prompts, says switch yourself off and take a coffee break or something.
Or maybe asking a question about something like Tesla or something like that. Who knows?
Speaking of Tesla.
Yes, electric vehicles. This is our segue, which we've been looking for a while there, David. You bought yourself a new electric car. Please explain.
Yes, well, having done over 60,000 kilometres on my current Hyundai Ioniq and been very pleased with it, even though it's the earliest model that you could get and therefore has the battery capacity's gone up 20%. But
since then, yes, I should say it's the Ioniq 5, not the original Ioniq. There was an Ioniq which didn't have a number next to it, but now every trendy electric car has a number next to it now.
So without spending too much time on it, and having seen how the range can drop very suddenly when you go up hills and into colder climates, but it's never run out. And we've been out to Mildura and done the Sunshine Coast to Sydney trip in a day, and down to Melbourne without spending a lot of time on it. It's been very reliable, wonderful, love it. We'll never own another petrol car. I think I might have mentioned that I went from an E-Class Mercedes, which took me all my career. I worked up one car after another to get and if you told me that within 2 years of getting the E-Class, I would sell it and buy a Hyundai, I would have laughed at you. But that's exactly what I did, and I have no regrets. And now, always been willing to take a leap into the unknown. We've gone Chinese with the second car. You don't really, a true person who loves the environment would say you don't need any cars. You should take public transport everywhere, like Tim Nielsen says. He rides his bike. But we've now gone to a second electric car, and we've gone with the Xpeng G6, which is very competitively priced. He hardly seems to show up in the statistics, but it seems to be selling quite well as far as I can see, and that there were people out there buying who'd bought a car when we went out to get the demo in a nearly empty showroom, just one car, but seems to be like a magic pudding. It gets replaced and gets sold every day. We bought ours, and then there were people in to get the next one immediately afterwards. So it's like the equivalent of a Tesla Model Y, I suppose, although I've never driven in a Tesla. And it's got great electronics that don't seem to be intrusive in the room. Plenty of space inside, reasonably comfortable space, like not too much hard plastic, like say the Kia EV3's got. It's got all the cameras and it does the self parking well. I've tested that out 2 or 3 times myself, and a single motor version, but 600 kilometres of range, which is seems to be pretty good. And in general, I like it. Nice Pirelli tyres on it if you care about having good, ultimately the tyres are the most important thing in a car in many ways, because no grip, you don't go far.
Absolutely. I actually got a new set of tyres the other day, and it's quite important when you drive an electric vehicle. Good tyres are important, one because of the weight and the speed of the vehicle, but also because of the noise. You don't want it's actually been a bit of a challenge for the tyre makers to actually make them less noisy. And I've got some new Michelin tyres, and they're terrific.
So, there's new electric cars coming all the time. Zeekr is going to have, it's just released its very popular car in Europe, the XU7 or whatever it is, the S7, I can't remember, and that's coming. Anyway, Giles, this is not the new Chinese electric vehicles podcast. That's a great podcast, but you probably run that somewhere else. This is the Energy Insiders one.
Yes, but it's all related, David, because before you know it, you'll have that text plugged into your house and be sending power back to the grid with, how big's the battery?
The battery in that, I actually can't, I think it's about 80 kilowatt hours or something like that.
There you go. That's a reasonably big unit that you can be helping out with the grid. So we shall see how that evolves over the lifetime of your vehicle purchase.
Yep. That's right,
Absolutely. Okay. Well, look, thanks, David. Thanks to Darren Miller for joining us earlier in the podcast for a fascinating rundown on what ARENA is up to. Thanks to all the listeners out there. Do check out some of our other podcasts, Solar Insiders.
And tune back in next week to hear the latest thing from Donald Trump that is, you never know whether to laugh or cry, but you'll hear it here.
I was going through our list of other podcasts, the Driven podcast, the Solar Insiders podcast, and the Switched On Australia podcast. Thanks to our sponsors, Evergen and Pylon, and we'll be back with another episode of the Energy Insiders podcast, including furry animals, this time next week. Bye for now.